So I have a picture here of a bunch of people in a boat, and basically that's just kind of like, yeah, when you hear we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat as far as COVID-19. While that may be somewhat true, I read something on Facebook the other day that I think was a little more relevant than saying we were all in the same boat. They were saying we're all in the same storm. And I think that is much more accurate. And so, because some of us in this storm, you know, we're still getting paid, life is still okay, maybe we just have some time at home, or we, you know, we're able to just spend some time with our kiddos. And so the storm is not so difficult for some, but for others, the storm looks more like this. Maybe they're out of work, or they are an employer who is having difficulty maintaining payroll, or they've had to close their doors because they're considered non-essential during this time. And so really the storm is rougher for some than others, but all of us are having to deal with it in our own ways. But most importantly, what I want to reiterate to everyone is that you're not alone. So there are resources available to you, such as the Chamber of Commerce and the Small Business Development Center. And of course, everyone's been aware of the Small Business Administration and the funding that's been available that way. So
hey, Rebecca.
Yes, ma'am.
They are still having quite a bit of difficulty hearing you.
Okay, I think I might have a solution to that. Give me 20 seconds. Okay, can people hear me a little better now, possibly? Or am I still muffled? How about you, Natalie? Can you hear me at all?
No. Do you happen to have a headset or anything there?
Yeah, that's what I just did was I hooked in my headset. Let me try one more thing. Okay, how about now? Is that a little bit better? I opened up my laptop.
Yes, that is better. Thank you.
Okay, so my microphone to my laptop must be, I had it closed, and so it must be on the inside of it. All right, I'm glad you can hear me now. So I don't know if you missed my great story about the storm, but we will move on. So just letting people know that you are not alone during COVID-19. We are all in this storm together, even if our boats look different. And so, as we all know, there was the Paycheck Protection Program, which Congress is saying that they believe they can get past additional funding today. So we'll see what happens with that. But they were out of funds in less than 2 weeks, and they gave out the equivalent of 14 years worth of SBA loans in the 2 weeks that they had the PPP funding. So there were a lot of people that got funded, but there were many more who didn't because they didn't act quickly. Also, the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, many still haven't heard back from the SBA, even though they have applied 3 to 4 weeks ago when it first came out. There have been some who have received advances. So some people have heard. I heard this morning from one of my clients that the SBA did a credit check for them for their EIDL. So it is coming. It is in the works. And stimulus checks, again, that's one of those deals where some people have received them, others haven't because they didn't have a deposit account set up already on file with the IRS. And then unemployment. We just did a webinar on Friday you know, you're told by the Missouri Department of Labor that if you want to apply for unemployment and, you know, you're
a sole proprietor and you need to get that federal relief, that you go in and you click none for which state you worked. Well, if you went and did that on Friday, none was not an option. So, you know, the government is working as fast as the government can in order to get these funds out. And there are snags all along the way with every single one of these programs. But I think we can all agree that they're trying really hard to get these things fixed, and so everybody can move on. And then the payroll tax credits was the last thing that was available. And sure enough, as soon as people went to file for their first quarter payroll taxes, there was big red ink across the front page of the quarterly filings for payroll taxes that said, hey, if you're planning on take the employee retention credit, don't do that for first quarter, after they just told everyone that they, you know, this was something you could do in order to get funding or save funds. So, but you can do it now. But again, these are just little hiccups along the way, and it's very frustrating, I know, for everyone. But you know, there is assistance available. So the first thing that I want to talk about really is whether or not your business is essential. And the only reason I want to mention this is because I have seen some businesses that are listed as essential and they are not open. And I just want to make sure that people are understanding that if they are listed as an essential business, and that definition is very specific from the Department of Homeland Security, and you can go to this website and check out whether or not your business would be considered essential. But you also want to check with your local municipality and make sure that what matches with the Department of Homeland Security also matches locally, because you must obey both guidelines, of course. So healthcare workers, if you do home delivered meals, if you're a dentist, a psychologist, an optometrist, or a chiropractor, etc., these people are all considered essential workers, both here at the city level in St. Joseph, as well as the guidance given by Homeland Security. Now, some of these people may just be choosing not to be open because of COVID, and that's totally fine. But just want to make sure that they understand that they could be open or do virtual visits if they need to. And many are doing virtual visits. Childcare is another one. Childcare in the city of St. Joseph is exempt from the statutes and stuff. So childcare is able to be open if they so choose. Hygiene products and services such as dry cleaners and pest control, they can be open. Nurseries, because they sell home plants, can be open. IT companies, security companies, and of course animal services, which I think all the animal services here in town are open. But I just want to make sure that people understand that, you know, you can be open. And if you have any questions about that, contact if you're in St. Joe, contact the health department to double check. So here's one though that I had a question about, and that was golf courses. So golf courses are considered an entertainment or recreational facility. Those are considered non-essential, but I saw in the paper that it was like, hey, it's a great day to go golfing. There was a whole article about golfing during COVID. And so I'm not sure about that particular article that was in the newspaper that I read, but we'll just let others decide on their own, I guess, for that particular one. So the tax credit advance. This is something that has been overlooked. Now, the Chamber of Commerce and the SBDC did offer a very in-depth webinar about the two tax credit programs. But just to give you a very short background on this, COVID-19 sick pay and EFMLA. So if you are paying the 80 hours of sick pay or have paid that, or if you are currently paying extended family medical leave which is up to $200 a day for people who are at home and taking care of their children, you can receive a tax credit on that. And so those payroll taxes, this is the example, those payroll taxes that you have for, say, the month of April, in this example, let's say your taxes total $12,000. That's just the taxes, not the wages. But COVID-19 related paid sick time and including any health insurance premiums you paid, and Medicare taxes total $2,000. So that's the COVID-19 related sick pay that you paid. So now instead of owing $12,000, you only owe $10,000 in payroll taxes. So that's a savings of $2,000 to you. So when you submit your payroll taxes, you would only submit the $10,000, not the $12,000. And you would just keep documentation as to why you did that. And there's some special documentation that you need to keep. And that was in a previous webinar we did, but I just wanted to let people know that this is out there. And employee retention is the second tax credit program that is available to individuals. If you get the PPP loan, this tax credit is not available to you, so just know that. But here's the example on this. Payroll taxes for April, let's say, totaled $5,000, and your COVID-19 related retention wages and health premiums were $14,000. Under this retention credit, you can claim 50% of those wages and premiums, and so that's $7,000 out of the 14. Well, you only owe 5, so in reality, you have overpaid by $2,000, or you would have been overpaying. So now you don't owe anything, and you actually have a refund coming back to you, and the IRS will refund that to you, as long as you don't have any other tax liabilities outstanding. So the most important thing, and why I mentioned both of these programs, is because if you need cash now, you can utilize the IRS Form 7200 that you see here on the screen in order to get cash up front for these savings. So in other words, in the first example there, that's $2,000 that you don't have to pay. So you still have to pay in the $10,000, right? So there's really not much there. But in the employee retention, you're supposed to get a refund of $2,000. So what you could do is apply for that advance now, knowing that these are their wages, instead of waiting for your quarterly filing with the federal government. You would simply file Form 7200 now and receive your $2,000 up front. So that gives you money in your pocket today. So that's one way. The PPP, as I mentioned earlier, is, back on target to receive funding, hopefully today. And as soon as that funding comes out, we already know how the program works. So we should be able to get going as quickly as possible. Here we go. So what I want to let everybody know is, as you know, the PPP ran out in less than 2 weeks last time. So get your documents together now. If you have not applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, you'll need your profit and loss statement, your Schedule C for sole proprietors, your 1099s for independent contractors. You'll need your W-2s, or evidence of, rather, your payroll is what I should say. If you're a partnership, you'll need your Schedule E for that. Any rent or lease information, utility records, as well as mortgage documents that are business related. So get all of that information together and contact your lender. Inquire about what their process is. Maybe many lenders are still accepting applications even though there's no funding at the moment, but they know that funding is coming. So inquire what your bank's process is. Get an application if you can from them. Go ahead and complete it. Make sure you have all of your documents together, and go ahead and give that to your lender, because 2 things have to happen after that package is together. One is that your lender has to approve it internally with the bank, making sure that you have filled out your application correctly, that you've calculated your payroll correctly, and that there's not any reason that it wouldn't be approved. So they have to look it over, and that takes a little bit of due diligence on their part. And then once the funds open, the next thing that has to happen is they have to submit it to the SBA's, it's called E-Tran, in order to get an SBA loan approval number. So you need to make sure that you have all of your ducks in a row and everything is good to go, so that as soon as that opens back up for funding, they can submit it. And I will tell you that of all the lenders that I've spoke with, they all say the same thing, and that is, yes, they processed, a gajillion applications and had lots and lots of funding. Nottoway Valley Bank told me they processed over 500. This was the one up in Maryville. I don't know if that was for all of the banks or just them, but they processed over 500 applications. Bank Midwest regionally processed over 1,500 applications that all were approved. However, these banks still have several hundred, if not over 1,000 applications in the queue, still waiting to be processed. So they have been approved, but can't get funded. So if you haven't applied yet, you are already behind the 8 ball because there are already more people in front of you who had submitted all of their documents early for the first round of funding. So what I want to stress most of all is that for this and everything else I talk about for the rest of this webinar is that you have to hurry up and get your information in for any of these things that I talk about, because it's going to go fast again. The second round is going to go just as fast, and there may not be a third round. So be quick with everything that you do. So go early and go quick. Okay, many of you have read about the U.S. Chamber grant. This is from the United States Chamber, which is not the local chambers of commerce. So it is a nationwide organization, and they had put out a grant late last week where anyone that had between 3 and 20 people and were in an eligible zip code could apply, the business could apply for a grant. And all of the zip codes I checked were eligible in Missouri. Unfortunately, this grant closed due to overwhelming interest. So again, this was just announced late last week. I think I saw it Friday maybe. And last night when I was putting this slide together to double check everything, it was already closed. So that is how quickly these things this money is going. So any of the things that I share with you today, please, if you want to apply, don't think about it, just go ahead and do it. I only mentioned this one at the bottom, the Amazon Neighborhood Small Business Relief Fund, because I've seen it going around like on Facebook and other places. This is only for the Seattle area. This is not nationwide. So I just wanted to let people know that that's not available here in Northwest Missouri. Okay, so this one is called the CARES Act grants, and this is an arts grant. So this is meant for payroll as it relates to like cultural organizations. So the deadline to submit is tomorrow, and May 4th is, if they're going to open the grant, is what I should say, is tomorrow, not the deadline. They're opening it up tomorrow at grants.gov, and this is a nationwide grant that you can apply for. So again, get your application in early if this is something that you're looking for and this makes sense for your business. The Farmer Relief Fund from the American Farmland Trust, this is for $1,000 to help weather the storm as it relates to COVID-19. This is for small and mid-size farmers that have between $10,000 and $1 million in revenue. And the initial application round is extended by a whopping 2 days. So again, today's the 21st. This deadline is the 23rd. So if this is something that you could benefit from, get your application in today. Grants will begin being distributed May 1st. And that's the other thing I want to mention about these things that I'm talking about. All of these have very quick turnaround times. Typically, grants take months to decide who's going to get it and then just as long to disperse the funds. That's not the case with the ones that I'm presenting to you today, and that's because these are all COVID related for the most part. There's 1 or 2 exceptions in here, and they know that the turnaround time needs to be quick. Okay, the Main Street Initiative. This one is very interesting. So if you have an existing brick and mortar business, so think, retail establishments on Main Street or a restaurant, and you've been affected by COVID-19, which I can't imagine anyone on Main Street wasn't, then you could be eligible to receive a $2,000 zero interest loan immediately. So there's a little asterisk by that. And what you have to do is open up a capital raising campaign on Mainvest's website. And by doing that, you automatically receive the $2,000. But it also puts you in to potentially receive over $100,000 of investment from your community. So, and you get to set a goal of how much money you're trying to raise. And if you reach that goal, then there's other benefits to that. So keep in mind, I'm not endorsing any of these. I'm just telling you about them, and it's up to you to go and look at all the fine print and details and do your own due diligence. But if it looks interesting and seems appropriate for your business, please apply quickly. All right, Shea Moisture launched a $1 million fund to support entrepreneurs of color. Their applications opened a couple of weeks ago, but they do have a turnaround time. I will tell you, when I was on their website last night, it was very vague about how they're going to do these grants, and they don't have an application on their website. So according to their website, they are still accepting applications, they are still giving grants, but there was nowhere on there I could find to actually apply. But still wanted to mention it and just kind of give you a heads up on that. It's possible that they've closed this one, but because their website as of last night said that it was still available, I'm just letting you know. You might have better luck finding where the application is. And Sphinx, their Red Backpack Fund has $5 million, and that's going to go quick too. For getting women entrepreneurs, it's $1,000 per female. 1,000 females at $5,000 each. So the first round of applications opened April 6th. That has closed. They open again on May 4th. So this is one where you can get your application in about another week and a half or so. And the reason that the lady on there said she wanted to do this is because she said that is how she opened her business. She was a single person that opened her business with $5,000 of cash. So she's giving 1,000 women $5,000 of cash. But again, I expect this one to go very quickly. Facebook is offering, I'm sure many of you have seen this, $100 million in cash grants and ad credits for up to 30,000 small businesses. And there's the link where you can go and try to find some additional information about this and how to apply. Verizon has donated $2.5 million to a group called LASC. It's a nonprofit, and you can get grants up to $10,000 to entrepreneurs of color and women-owned businesses. To register for the mid-April round of funding, you go to that link. So the first round has closed. The first round of funding has closed, but they said the second round opens mid-April. Today's April 21st. Last night it wasn't open yet, but I'm hoping any day now it will open. So this is a website, if I was you and you're interested in this, I would check into this twice a day, every day until it opens back up. Hello Owlis is offering $10,000 grants to small businesses in general. For more information about their grants, you can go to this website, which you'll be able to click on when Natalie sends these out after the webinar. So Microsoft is not providing grants per se, but they are offering 6 months of Office 365 tools so that you can collaborate easier, share files, things like that to small businesses. And so if you're interested or need any of those types of technology or software, then this is the website where you go to find that. If you're a nonprofit listening, this is another one for you. The Missouri Humanities is providing funding for nonprofit cultural organizations. That began a week ago. And so there's the website for that. And here's one where Yelp is providing $25 million, not in grant funding, but in the form of waived advertising fees. So if you're a business who currently pays for Yelp advertising, you would definitely want to jump on this and try to get some of those payments that you owe or would typically owe waived by Yelp. Okay, so that's what I have there. And I am going to look at the chat here so that I can see what kind of questions we have. Okay, first I have to get through all the ones that tell me I was muffled at the beginning. One of the questions was if the client saw the credit check on their credit report. They have one of those things that tells them anytime anybody checks their credit, and so they got a notice saying that their credit was checked. And so when they looked to see, it flat out said SBA, so they knew that the SBA was the one who checked their credit. SBA did not contact my client to tell them that it was a credit check app that he had. Lockaway Golf Course is currently open in Kansas City, says Jody. Question says, can you use the payroll tax credit money for wages you paid out prior to getting your PPP loan money? So that's a good question. And if you're talking about the employee retention tax credit, then the answer is no. If you're talking about the COVID tax credits, then yes. So another question here is, can we use PPP funds for new hires to replace some who had to quit or be terminated? Yes, is the answer to that. Yes, you can. And you should, because the PPP funds were based upon your average payroll for last year, which probably included those employees. If you don't replace them, then that could potentially affect your forgivability of the loan. The other part of that is if we just need to hire someone due to our business being seasonal and despite it still being below last year's numbers, things are picking up and we could use some extra help. So as far as seasonal employees go, when you receive your PPP calculation, since you have seasonal employees, there was a special calculation for seasonal employees, and that's the one you should have used. And so that would have helped ensure that the funding you received was appropriate for this season. If that didn't happen, then message me or email me personally and we can talk about that. Barb wants to know if I'm going to send these links. I am. You will have all of these slides and you'll be able to click on the links. And Crystal Golnick says she is also going to share all of these links on maximizenwmo.org's website, which is fantastic. Thank you, Crystal. Oh, good question here. Can you apply for some of the grants listed if you have already received PPP money? Yes, you can. A few of these, the one that was the CARES Act at the very beginning, it's a national grant from grants.gov, and it specifically even states, since it's a federal grant, that even if you received PPP funding, yes, you can still apply. And all of the others could care less if you got the PPP because they're not federal programs. For the employee retention credit, does an employer have to have all full-time employees, or will part-time employees also qualify? So part-time and full-time both qualify for all of the tax credits related to COVID-19. It's just based on total amount that you paid them, whether they're part-time or full-time. Okay, if anyone has any other resources for funding that they know of, please, put it in the chat and we'll share it with others, or let me know and I can check it out and make sure it's legit and then share it with others. I do want to, a nice caution here is that if you have to pay an application fee for the grant, especially if it's a considerable amount, reconsider whether it might be legitimate or not. If it's a well-known company, there's usually not an application fee for something like this. None of these that I mentioned did I see an application fee listed anywhere. I know that the federal grants there's never an application fee for those. So keep that in mind as you're applying for these. Okay, I am not seeing any other information in the chat. So again, if you have any questions after this, please feel free to reach out to me or to the Chamber of Commerce, and we will get you answers. I know Natalie has been working hard along with all of the people at the Chamber of Commerce to get information out to you all as quickly as possible and making sure that the information is relevant. So Natalie, did you have anything you wanted to add before we end?
Just thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate you taking the time to do these weekly. I think they're a lot of help for our members and local small businesses in the region. And don't forget, guys, for upcoming webinars, go to stjoseph.com and you can register for any upcoming webinars, and don't hesitate to let me know if you need help with that. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca.